Welcome into a special Inside Carolina analysis slash evaluation. Quarterback Max Johnson, SEC West, LSU, Texas A&M, ton of experience. I've got Jason Staples here, of course, Inside Carolina's football not recruiting expert, could be probably, but football analyst. Jason, I want to get you in here to talk about this. Obviously, Carolina needs to work the portal extremely hard over the next several weeks. And they went out and they secured what I believe to be their number one or close to their number one, if not the number one spot on the table, and that was at quarterback in Max Johnson. Just overview before we get into it more detail. What do you see from Max that can provide some much needed help for the Tar Heels next season in the post-Drake May era?
Well, it's funny because as soon as I saw him enter the portal, it was like, well, man, there's your quarterback. If Carolina can land him, that's a natural fit. And then, of course, he was the guy they targeted, and it made sense from both sides. I think he's a good fit for what Carolina does offensively. He's got a ton of experience. I mean, this is a guy who's started at LSU and at Texas A&M. He's played 1,573 snaps in the SEC. Right? That's a whole lot of snaps. Right? He has had a whole lot of opportunities, and he's played pretty well at different points. And actually, for Carolina fans who want to get a sense of sort of what he can bring to the table, go take a look at the 2021 LSU Texas A&M game. It's, you can find it on YouTube or wherever, you find your old games, but go and take a look at his performance against what was a pretty good Texas A&M defense that year. And especially what he did down the stretch through a touchdown pass with only a few seconds left in that game, for a game winner. And the way that he carved that secondary up in key spots was really, really impressive. And that also was one of the reasons why Texas A&M pursued him to be to compete for their job, and then ultimately to be the backup for Connor Wegman, who's a future top 5, top 10 pick at Texas A&M most likely, and then he took over as the starter when Wegman got hurt. But that's they saw him do that at LSU and said, yeah, we'd like that guy on our team. So it makes a lot of sense. He's a guy who, he's 6'6", 230. First thing that stands out to you is he's got sort of prototypical size. I mean, he's bigger than Drake May is, which is, not a small dude.
Exactly, especially when you see him up close. I mean, he's big boys.
Yeah, he's a grown man. He's played a lot of snaps. He's played through injury at different points, and I think a lot of people don't appreciate how banged up he was in his last action at LSU and then his action at Texas A&M. I mean, A&M has been really bad on the offensive line, and he's still managed to be efficient as a passer. Just to put it in perspective, in 2021 for LSU, his NFL passer rating was 101.2, okay? This year, Drake May's NFL passer rating was 100.2. Okay, so now that was a good LSU supporting cast in terms of wide receivers and running backs and all that, but that was not the best offensive line there. I'm looking through the numbers here, and I remember watching him that year in particular, but these are good representative numbers. His average time to throw was 2.78 seconds. Drake May this year, average time to throw 2.81. I mean, within 0.03 of a second difference. Average time to pressure allowed by that LSU offensive line was 2.49 seconds. Drake May this year, 2.52 seconds. Again, a 0.03 of a second difference. And he actually got a little bit less time to throw per throw than what Drake May did this year. Now, he was a little bit less efficient than that this year, and last year for Texas A&M. It was a 97 NFL passer rating and a 90.5 this year. But neither of those offenses was especially good. I mean, even Wegman, who I think is a first round grade as a future prospect, at different points had some difficulties this year because they had trouble blocking at times. So, and that's how Wegman got hurt too. But you look at, again, that 2021 team is, I think, what you're hoping if you're North Carolina is you're getting the player that was surrounded by pretty good talent and an overall good offense in 2021 at LSU, where he put up 27 touchdowns, 6 picks, and put his team in position to win a lot of games. So, he's actually a pretty mobile guy at 6'6". He's a former basketball player and a really good athlete. I mean, his brother is the former number 1 tight end prospect in the country, and he's not much worse, not a much worse athlete than his brother. So, he can move. He can actually gain some yardage with his legs. If he does have a significant weakness I've seen at times, it's that he will hold on to the football, a little bit too long at times, which North Carolina fans are familiar with that being something that their quarterbacks are accustomed to doing. But he'll hold on to the ball late and take some shots to give himself opportunities up the field. I mean, he's hit some big plays with guys, hitting him in the chest. And again, he's a big, strong guy and can make those throws. Throws a nice, catchable, very, very. He can drop the ball in the bucket on the deep throws. Throws a nice, catchable deep ball, and is a pretty accurate deep thrower. So just in terms of what North Carolina wants from their quarterback position, he checks a lot of those boxes, and again brings experience in 2 legitimate, like, real offenses, not just hurry up, no huddle, run 20 plays offenses. He can read a defense. He can check into different run plays. He's, coming from Jimbo Fisher's offense, he's run essentially an NFL system. So just a lot to like about this take. Definitely a better replacement for Drake May than I thought North Carolina would have any chance of getting this offseason. And I think I think Carolina fans should be really happy about this pickup.
So, Jason, when you look at transfer portal quarterbacks and all, people see the shiny new nickels and all that, and there's some guys out there. I mean, there's guys entering the portal literally daily, and I assume after December 4th there'll be a lot more. Is there any angst with Max Johnson to North Carolina? You've laid out why he's a good quarterback. You've laid out the ratings and all that kind of stuff. What should North Carolina fans sort of be worried about, if there's anything? Because quite frankly, there doesn't sound like there's much to worry about given what you've recited over the past 6 minutes.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest thing is can he stay healthy? I mean, he's been banged up. I mean, he's played a lot of snaps and he's been hurt more than once. And he missed the last part of this year at Texas A&M with injury. And given what Carolina's offensive line in terms of protection looked like toward the back half of the season this year, you hope that improves a little bit going into next year, but he's going to have to protect himself, and you've got a quarterback with an injury history. That's, to me, the biggest concern. If he stays healthy all year next year, I think you're looking at a guy in the top quarter of ACC quarterbacks. I mean, you're looking at a guy that is a reliable player who can be a plug-and-play player and be an efficient passer who distributes the ball to playmakers, consistently gets his team into the right checks, consistently makes the right kind of decisions in RPOs and that sort of thing, and doesn't make a bunch of mistakes. That's about as much as you can ask for coming out of a portal for a 1-year guy. And to get a guy with that much experience and all of that, I think it's I think this is a coup for North Carolina to pull this guy. Like I said, the big concern is he's coming off injury, and this is not the first time he's been hurt. And how much wear and tear he's had. Can you keep him healthy all season?
That is Inside Carolina's Jason Staples discussing the recent commitment of quarterback Max Johnson from LSU, by way of LSU, Texas A&M. Last question for you, Jason. A lot of people talk about the experience factor, but I just want you to reiterate the experience factor of not only playing high-level college football, but playing it in the SEC West for 4 years. I mean, it does not get Don Callahan, I believe, said maybe the Big Ten East, but
No,
the
it's still
SEC
not the
West. Yeah, just speak to that aspect of this for North Carolina, because let's be honest, the ACC, as it's currently constituted, is not the SEC West. Max
Yeah,
Johnson
and
comes from
I
that
mean,
to Carolina.
you hear about the SEC, you hear all these people chanting SEC, 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 but it's really the SEC West, because the SEC East hasn't been real good for a while. You've got Georgia and everybody else in the SEC East, but in the West, this guy in the past 4 years has faced Alabama. He's played against Alabama what 4 times in the past 4 years. I think he actually was the starter in each of those for each of the teams he was playing against. It's at least 3. So he's played against Alabama multiple times. He's played against LSU. He's played against Texas A&M, and he's played for both of those teams. He's played against Auburn, and Auburn's had some quality defenses. And their these are all teams that pay top dollar for their defensive coordinators, on top of top dollar for their defensive rosters.
I was going to say in players now.
Yeah. So I mean, he's. Even a game against Arkansas. Arkansas has had a physical and pretty good defense over the last few years. LSU's cross division rivals, Florida, right? I mean, he has over and over again played against top level defenses that are going to give him all sorts of complex looks. They're going to bring, they've got the best defensive lines generally. In terms of division, it's the best division in the country for defensive lines you have to face. And yeah, he's gone through that gauntlet over and over again and has seen it all. I mean, there's just not much he's going to see next year. I bet you next year he does not see more than a handful of looks or coverages that he's not seen before. And I'm not sure he sees one. And he's not going to see a defensive line or defense better than a couple of the Alabama defenses that he played when he was at LSU, and a couple of really good ones that he played against this year as well. So he's going to, again, it's not just the experience. It's he can make all the throws. He throws a quality deep ball. He can push the ball vertically. He's not the strongest arm in the world. I mean, if he had all of Drake May's tools in that sense, he'd be turning pro right now instead of taking one more year in college. But really, I think in as much as anything, he's just been banged up a lot and has not really had a chance to showcase everything he's got. And, his dad played a long time in the NFL. Interesting thing is his dad was a backup at Florida State when he finished his career at Florida State. And then won a Super Bowl. Yeah, won a Super Bowl in the NFL. And also interesting is that, his dad is in-laws with Mark Richt. I mean, there's a whole lot of good quarterback blood in that family. His dad is kind of an interesting case because he's a lot like his dad was, where he's just a steady player who who consistently makes the right throw. If you watched his dad play in college or the NFL, you'd say, he doesn't blow you away with arm strength or any one thing, but he does a lot of things really well, and he's an accurate thrower, makes good decisions, and that turned out to be good enough to win a Super Bowl, even though he didn't start his final year in college. And, interesting thing to me is I think Max has a real chance of winding up making an NFL roster down the line if he can get himself healthy, can finish a year and showcase himself well. I mean, if I'm Tez Walker and I'm planning on staying, and every indication that I've heard is that Tez is planning on staying, I'm ecstatic about this because, he can help me look good for another year. And if I'm Max Johnson, I'm looking at that and going, I've got Tez Walker. I've got some potential weapons here. I can look really good and potentially get myself drafted, even though I'm a little older, and make an NFL roster. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, 6-7 years down the line holding a clipboard in the NFL.
There you go, folks. Inside Carolina's Jason Staples. One, not to mince words. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. It is what it is. Jason Staples on Max Johnson. North Carolina's first commitment out of the transfer portal. Quarterback. Assume the reins, or at least assume the battle with what's in the room at the current time. Jason, it's always a pleasure to talk football with you, my man.
It's more fun when it's good news.